Welcome back to the Win With Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win With Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, your first time listening to the Win With Dice podcast. It's a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, so on this podcast, we like to talk about the games that we run and the games that we play, and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with. If this is your first introduction to tabletop RPGs, definitely I give you the permission to pause this episode, go find yourself a table, go have some fun or a group or whatever, and then come back and listen in. But if you are a player at someone's table, maybe it's your turn to jump behind the GM screen and run a game for your group.
Indeed. So this episode, we don't really have a specific topic. We're probably going to be bouncing around a bit because there's like a handful of things that we want to talk about. This is going to be a fun flim-flam episode. We haven't had like a disjointed, disorganized episode in a while. We've been too professional.
Yeah, the good old days. Before there was too much. There's too much good things happening in the world of TTRPGs that it's tough to find the time to just talk shit.
Yeah, man, we gotta get silly.
Yeah.
As we come on to 200, we gotta do some throwbacks. So that's the plan for this week, but before we get into all that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win With Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win With Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by me. I don't even know if this is really a tip, but I feel like it's a thing that people just do. But I recently had some engagement with some people who are like, maybe you could come run for us. And then I'm like, I actually like to keep a couple of adventures kind of on the back end, I guess, in the books that I'm familiar with. I've ran them before, or at least I've ran the beginnings of them before, so it's really easy to kind of pick up and go. I mean, Rise of the Rune Lords, I've started that game at least 4 times now. So that's one in my back pocket. I have a few from Ineon that I could just pull out and run, but it's kind of cool to maybe if you're a GM, that's taking a bit of a hiatus from running a game to kind of keep those starter adventures kind of on hand, or maybe plan them out, just because the time crunch of oh no, I have to run a session isn't there doesn't mean that you can't just work on something small scale, maybe in a couple of sessions, kind of having it on the books, maybe in a Google Docs somewhere on file. It's great to have. And for those impromptu oh hey, I have some friends who want to play D&D or any sort of TTRPG, do you want to run? And then you're like, yes, I can. When? Right?
Yeah, just in case the urge bites again and you are taking that break. I also wanted to say that sometimes people take breaks because of burnout and stuff like that. And I feel just having something that minimizes the prep you have to do is going to go a long way in helping you want to run games again. You could also do something just having a pre-written adventure hanging around, short 12, 16 page one that you can hop into and out of in a very short session. Just, if you want to run a game, because I'm sure people have been in that position before where they want to run a game, but they don't really feel like doing the prep, and they just crossing that bridge to it is a bit too much. Just having something in your back pocket that you can just throw down, I think that's going to help relieve some of the stress, at least the pre-game stress. And I mean, at least for me, that's the worst kind of stress. Once I'm in it, but the pre-game is the tough part for me. So yeah, something to minimize that, I think, would be useful for people.
Yeah, and I call it the off seasons because we're there's only so much GMing to go around, right? Or at least time in everyone's schedule these days. But I would say that on the off season where you're not the GM of the group or whatever, it's good to just kind of have. And honestly, as somebody who's or people who are jamming and doing that kind of creative stuff, the juices are flowing all the time. You'll sit there one day and be like, oh shit, I have a great idea. Write it down, plan it out, or whatever. But again, it's cool to have something small scale, something you could draw, and something that's easy to put together and run. A one pager, it makes it a lot easier to just kind of run those pickup games if you just put a little work beforehand. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the tip of the week, I guess. Right, have a one pager in your back pocket just in case your emergency. I have to run a game today.
Exactly. All right, so let's hop into the episode. First up, Ramon, there is something I have to toss to you, but what I wanted to start off with first is some news, actually, because we do have to be professional for 5 seconds. As people may already know, because this was announced a couple of weeks ago, there is an upcoming Pathfinder video game by Ossian Studios, partnering with Paizo. They are creating a CRPG called Pathfinder: The Dragon's Demand. So if you're a fan of games like Baldur's Gate, you might be into this sort of thing. By the time this episode comes out, the Kickstarter will be live, because it is going live on the Tuesday of the week that this episode is going out. So we'll probably talk about it more like in the next couple of weeks. But I did just want to mention it. I'll put a link to the trailer below. It's basically, the design of the game is like, you have like these miniatures, basically. The characters are represented by minis that have sort of their own small like animations, like particle animations of like fire and stuff. It's an interesting look. I kind of want to see how it looks in the trailer, because I'm like a smidge on the fence about it. I want to get a better view of it. But from what they've described, you'll have like 12 companion characters, I think it was, and like all of the classes available up to, I think it was level 8 or so. I will have to look up the press release so I can give more specific information by the next time we talk about it. But I did just want to shout this out for people who might not have heard about it. And again, I will have a link below. It will be based on the Pathfinder 2nd edition system, which I'm very much looking forward to. So yeah, I'm really hoping we can get a cool game with the Pathfinder 2e system.
Ooh, I mean, I'm down for it. I mean, I still am on the fence of getting Baldur's Gate 3, so it would be cool if I could just play Pathfinder. I don't know. I also, kind of bringing it back to the tip of the week, the group wants to play D&D, and I was like, I actually have never played a game of 5th edition in my life, so...
Yeah, I feel like if they haven't played D&D before, I feel like Pathfinder's just fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. But anyway, let's yeah, totally cool. I'm down for this video game. I'm down to play Pathfinder on the screen, I guess.
I mean, same, to be honest. There is a game on Steam already that uses the Pathfinder 2nd edition rules called Dawnsbury Days. I haven't played it myself, but some people may have seen known that one's play it recently. It's only like $6 or $7, so I might check it out. But yeah, I am looking forward to this game. Again, by the time this episode comes out, we'll have an actual trailer and Kickstarter information to work off of, so we'll be sure to talk about it soon.
Cool.
Now then, there is something else I need from you, Ramon. So something that's been happening with our home game group is that Tim, the GM who ran us through the Lost Minds of Phandelver campaign, and then the Unintended Consequences campaign, and then the Aftermath campaign, because Tim is actually capable of ending and starting campaigns.
He's so powerful, man. Oh my god. Like...
Is it possible to learn this power? He has been doing basically a drop-in, drop-out sort of almost West Marches, I think is the closest comparison for people to have like a quick reference. Like, it's just whoever's available for a game at a certain day. And we've been going through the Cowboy dimension, which is basically the real world Wild West. People who may have been listeners of the podcast previously would have heard some of our recaps of games that involved the Cowboy dimension. It was basically just whenever Ramon's character, whenever Ramon wasn't able to show up for a session, Silrona would be whisked away to an alternate Cowboy dimension. Because by that point, Silrona was basically like a cowboy wizard.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember which part that I decided that Silrona was specifically a cowboy wizard. But I don't think it was from the jump, but I like it anyway.
It definitely wasn't from conception of the character, but it's kind of like a core thing of him now.
Yeah, for sure.
So the thing with this campaign is it's obviously a very low magic campaign. So the characters there would tend to be more like, rogues, or like obviously a gunslinger. I'm playing a inventor, and it's a lot of just like being creative and trying to figure out how your class would work in the system. Like, you can have a bard, but how would it work if you're not using like actual magic spells, right? Mm-hmm. And the narrative of this campaign sort of follows off of events that happened in our previous campaigns, where a dimension-hopping assassin sort of passed through this dimension several times, made himself a rival of Silrona, who served as the sheriff of a small town. And in the course of our adventure and previous stories, some magical items were sort of left behind littering in this dimension. And those are sort of at the core of what we're dealing with, either recovering these items or dealing with powerful magical creatures. Relatively powerful, as in they are a thing not of this world. But in like a fantasy dimension, they might just be a minor annoyance. So recently, and this is the thing I have to bring you in on, recently we recovered an object, a magical banjo that was being used. It originally belonged to someone who was, since we're not doing like a full recap, I don't want to say too much, but it did originally belong to, that actual assassin. It belonged to High Hat Harry.
Oh no, okay.
However,
I don't like where this is going.
It was taken from him by a banjo player who managed to defeat High Hat Harry in sort of a duel. And so this man was using this banjo, and he wasn't using it for necessarily malicious purposes, at least not intentionally, but without giving too much away, it's still a magical object that he is using, and it's having an effect on people around him. So the governor of Texas, who is one of my favorite of Tim's characters, by the way, the governor, Tom Tortate, governor of the Texas state, has once again tasked us to hunt down this magical item. Long story short, we were pretty successful in doing so, including a showdown with the banjo player himself after rescuing him from a goblin ambush. So we brought the banjo back to Tom Tortate, governor of the Texas state, and we were told that we had to, like other objects we may have found, we were told that we have to give it to Silrona, who for us is basically just this far-off NPC. We have to give this object to Silrona, this dimension-hopping wizard, so we can bring it back to where it's supposed to be. However, we do have someone in the party who is pretty much a bard, and it would be pretty useful in our hands. So we tried to, argue and debate a bit with Tom Tortate, trying to get him to let us keep the instrument. But unfortunately, we weren't able to convince him. We did briefly consider just stealing it, but then it would be like super obvious who did it, because it's not like it's not well known what this thing is, and if it suddenly goes missing and we said that we wanted it, it would be pretty obvious who took it.
Yeah.
So, what we ended up doing is Chitty's character, Sona, left a note on the object itself, sort of tucked in under the strings of this magical banjo. And because Silrona is your character, we thought it'd be fun if you had to respond to this note. So, Ramon, to have your live reaction, not live, recorded reaction, and the people will hear it when they hear it. Silrona, who has been tasked by the governor of Texas to recover these objects and send them back to the fantasy dimension from whence they came, I guess he's been given this magical banjo, and on it you find this rolled up piece of paper that's tucked under a string of the magical banjo. The handwriting is ornate and neat, despite being clearly written in a hurry. And the note itself says, "This instrument has great potential to help with the otherworldly threats that have been plaguing our lands lately. Perhaps it could find its use here, rather than where it originally belonged." And then it is signed with a musical note. And I am kind of stepping into the GM shoes a bit here, so I'm sorry, Tim. But it's GMing by proxy, so what would Silrona's response to that be?
Oh, shoot. I'm pretty sure that Silrona also is a fan of doing good for what he didn't came from, right? So he's like, I think Silrona wouldn't care as long as they give it back once they've completed the mission.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Once they dealt with any sort of stray magical objects or creatures in the Texas lands.
Yeah, once the Texas lands are clear, then yeah, they gotta give it up.
But we can hang on to it until then.
Yeah, I mean, that banjo ain't hurt nobody in your hands, so I think it's mighty fine if they just keep on strumming it.
Yes. Perfect. Okay.
Does the banjo do anything coul? I'm so worried. Like, did I just increase the arms race?
Don't worry about it.
I didn't ask any questions. I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. Like,
no, it's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, Silrona will write a note to the governor being like, hey, like I trust this kid. This kid sounds cool.
Perfect.
It's on loan. It's on loan.
Awesome. Okay, well, hopefully, I'm looking forward. I'm gonna have to share this in our Discord group. Okay, well, thank you all our podcast listeners for putting up with something that is just incredibly specific to our home game.
I mean, I love GMing by proxy. I love. You guys should just ask me more stuff while I'm not at the table. That's like the best feeling. It's like, oh, cool. I get to like kind of GM, but like from afar and with no effort, or you know, I don't have to deal with the consequences.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Enough with the telephone game GMing. Although it does lead into the first Flim-Flam topic, because I was kind of thinking about like rewards and loot in RPGs, and I thought that was something we could just chat about for a bit, because it is something that I still feel like I have to struggle with a bit. It is something I feel, I don't know if I want to call it a weak point, but it is something that I don't feel like I'm as strong at as other stuff, because it's always such a last minute thought to me. I'm always like, ooh, let's do a cool fight here with these creatures. These guys look cool, and I'm sure the party will enjoy fighting them. Oh yeah, you have to get stuff.
Yeah, of course. Like, I feel like the thing is that you gotta give the NPCs, if it's like a combat thing or like a challenge thing, you gotta like give the NPCs the things that the players will get, so they get a taste of it. Right? You have that cool fire sword. Give it to like the bad guy, and so you can whack the PCs with it for a little bit, and they're like, holy shit, this sword's cool as fuck. I can't wait to kill this dude and take it. Like,
true. Especially with like a virtual tabletop system, like Foundry makes that super easy to do. It's just a matter of doing it.
Oh man, well, once we found out that you could just loot bodies by yourself, like without the GM interaction, like it was so funny.
Change the game.
Yeah, that and the party shoot, man, Foundry's so sick. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, because what I do a lot for Pathfinder at least, and I guess I will link this below as well. I found a website that I can like randomly generate loot, and it's like you put in your party, like the number of players in the party, the level, the XP of the combat, and it randomly generates stuff. And then sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, I don't know if this item is interesting enough. Let me see if I can find something that seems like similar enough value. But I don't know if that's, I mean, I'm clearly like, it's a mix of both underthinking it and overthinking it.
Yeah, because that's been like thematic too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like, if you generate a weapon or something like that, like give it to, like if you like have a bunch of goblins, something like that, and you have a bunch of randomly generated weapons, give one of them, it doesn't have to be a special one, it could just be like a regular goblin. Give them the cool thing because they just found it and they don't know what it is, right? And let them just like start swinging at you with it. And you could describe how this one dude is carrying around this big gigantic axe that's way too big for him or something like that. But when he like, I don't know, maybe he does connect, because if you're playing Pathfinder, is a good chance they will connect, because this is how the game is designed with the numbers. But like, yeah, I make it do like a crap ton of damage because it's like rolling a bunch of dice, and you're like, holy shit, this goblin's tough, but actually he's just a regular goblin. He just has this cool axe or something like that, right? Like, it'll make even those one-off fights kind of memorable, and it also helps like distinguish one goblin from another goblin. I know it might be a little bit more work on the GM side, but it'll make things more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be a thing where, like, because now I'm getting into the granular specifics, but, you know, the creature, they have the same, like, attack bonus they would have for whatever else they already have, but I just change the damage, I increase it so that it matches the fire sword or the lightning rod or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, totally. You don't even have to make it make sense, because, like, it's just like this creature only lasts, it exists for 4 turns, maybe, right? Like 1 to 4 turns this thing exists for. So give it the same attack bonus, and then just have like these stuff after you hit, like the damage dice and all that stuff kind of be built in. Like don't worry about it too much for Pathfinder. For other games, like you could do the same thing. I don't know. We only play Pathfinder around here.
Well, I am wondering, like, what do you do?
Lancer would be kind of cool. Lancer would be kind of cool to have like exotic gear. I know that like the PC stuff and the NPC stuff are pretty different, but it'd be cool to have like a piece of exotic gear that, like, you know, I think there's some stuff that translates well. Like I know in Solstice Reign. Spoilers for Solstice Reign. There is a big bad guy, and he has a big bad gun. And when you defeat him, you get the big bad gun. So like having stuff like that, like that's really easy to improvise. You don't have to have like a whole game provide stuff where you could just make stuff up yourself. Like you have the freedom to do. So if there's like a weapon, like I don't know, like the Ronin's sword or something like that, your players defeat the Ronin. Maybe you can give it to them, right? Design something that's like close enough to it, and give the players the option to wield it. And that would be kind of like a cool thing that the players get to do or have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I was thinking of Lancer, as I often do, and it does have, like, you can just give players resources. Like, that's something that they can acquire either in downtime, or you just give it as a reward in combat or post-combat.
You know what?
Yep.
I should just do that. Maybe we'll do like a design episode or some shit like that, where we'll go through like we just went through all of the NPCs, the core NPCs. Maybe we could just do another episode where we like look at their stuff and maybe give advice of like what could you loot from this NPC, right? Like what systems would be like worth it, right, to make it into exotic gear. Let us know in the comments if you're like, yeah, this is my jam, and we'll add it to the list of cool ideas that we'll get to.
You know what? That could be something, because I'm looking, because I opened the book just now because I was trying to remember what the resources were, and yeah, you'd mentioned just taking like the sword from the Ronin. Like, it's a sword with stats. You could just give it to a player. But I'm also thinking about, like, because under resources, you have certain systems you can acquire, or I don't know if systems is the right word, but you get stuff that's like, it's not necessarily a weapon. It's just like, you know, you get boosted servo, so you're immune to slowed. You get smart ammo, so you can change your weapons to smart. You have this limited resource that you get as a reward. I'm thinking like some of the NPCs, obviously they're more technical system based. Like if something has like the Cataphract's impale system, where it suddenly moves and it doesn't attack. Like if you could take whatever, like narratively, you just take some device from the Cataphract or some computer system, so your mech is able to learn the impale protocols, and you're able to use it like briefly or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be pretty sweet, and it'll give the in-between fights a little bit more of a, like, you're not just getting your ass handed to you. Like, if you got your ass handed to you, you're not just like rewarded with story stuff. Like, you get a little bit of extra, and like maybe slapping the limited tag on it. So sure, you're able to defeat the Ronin, but you only get like so many swings of the cool sword until it breaks, because you know it took damage during the fight, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
like if it's a weapon, it's like, this is made specifically for this mech, but if you like fire it, there's so much recoil that'll damage the weapon unless you have the proper balancing, or if you swing it, it can become damage. So you have limited uses of it, but you can use it. I mean, yeah, you could definitely think of something like that for each mech. Like the Witch, you can probably you can tear out this computer system that has like the blind or petrify or whatever, but it's only got so many uses because the Witch is made to function specifically with this device.
Oh my god, dude, could you imagine? You just get like, they would just be like one time. I think it would be cool to have like one-time use exotics. Right, where it's like you actually just like rip out the, because like there is this just reminded me of something. Okay, so on Netflix, right, there's a I forget what it's called, but there's like a new Terminator animated series that is pretty good, actually. I liked it a lot. But in spoilers for that one, go watch it. But in that one, a Terminator takes like a part of like a robot and then attaches it to itself and starts using it, which I was like, that's exact. Why aren't like in Lancer, you should be able to do that, right? It's the far future. You should be able to put a bunch of wires together, run some power to some piece of equipment, and then have like a limited use version of it like attached to your mech, right? Like just like ad hoc attached on the side or some shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like like some of these things, I'm sure there are player equivalents, and some of them might even be more effective. But I feel like it's going to feel more rewarding. Like you could have the exact same thing available to you at a higher license level or whatever, or even at a lower one, but just having like a limited use of something extra that you earned from a combat, I feel like is going to be more interesting than something that you got from leveling up, if that makes sense.
Or Yeah, or like can you imagine just picking up like the Demolisher hammer after defeating like
Yeah.
a Demolisher, and then like immediately use it to kill like to smash one of its friends? Like, oh, that'd be so sick. That'd be so like cinematic. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you know what? I think we should just play more Lancer.
yeah. Probably, yeah, that, maybe we should do that, and then I should just go back to running Lancer again on the channel. Yeah, my silly hiatus should be ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually listening back. I was actually listening back to our Lancer combat music playlist because I started using that as the intro playlist for streams for Armored Core, and I was like, man, Lancer. I actually, I do have to mention some sad news because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stream Armored Core for a while.
Oh no, you wasted so much time on the baby carrier.
Oh man, goddamn baby carrier. No, because they had a patch like last week or so, and now it gets real mad when I have my stream software open. And I saw a bunch of other people say they had like a problem with like their frame rate suddenly dropped and it started crashing. Someone on the Steam comments said this patch fixes the issue of having a high frame rate.
This patch fixes the issue of playing this game. I'm glad I got all this time back.
Yeah. So it's kind of a pain because I got to a really important part of the game, like, those sort of parts in games where you do a thing and it like recontextualizes the entire game, like even like from the very beginning of it you realize there was something that you didn't know then but was very important back then. Mm-hmm. And that happened, but then like I don't know if the stream saw it because every time I open a menu and like 50% of that game is menus, it suddenly just starts chugging. And it's weird, like, it's not when I'm in the game, it's not when I'm doing combat, it's when I open a menu that is suddenly like, oh, I can't handle this.
It's like, this is too much text.
Too many numbers.
Too many numbers.
So, I don't know.
It's unfortunate. Well, I mean, I guess there's like a space in the schedule until you fix this. Maybe you should go pick up that Pathfinder game.
You know what? It's not a bad idea. Wow, we got way off topic. Okay, classic Flim-Flam episode. Because I was going to specifically ask you how you feel about like doing rewards and stuff in Pathfinder specifically, because I know you like do a lot of custom items.
Oh yeah, I like it. I think that the coolest part about Pathfinder is that like everything's kind of tied to the level. So like even if you make something custom, if you just like tie it to the level or the regular progression, like it's not gonna break your game, especially if it's like a spell or something like that, right? Like giving like the party access to a spell that they normally can't use isn't that big of a deal. Like people should just do that more often. And I think I know there's probably some hiccups with like min-maxers and like finding like the right combination of some nonsense to be like game breaking, but like on regular tables with regular people, it's not your table will be fine if you give them like access to a fireball spell when they're all really people, right? Just make sure it's like limited and like doesn't break like the thing. But like I think it's cool to give custom items, and especially it's even cooler when it's like something that the character like not like destined to, but like kind of fits them, right? Like for instance, giving Macy like, I mean, I'm glad that you're like, I want to be a wizard even though I'm a big muscle bound barbarian.
She just reads a lot.
She just reads a lot. So of course she learned how to cast spells, you know what I mean? But giving her like a cool like ability where like flavor wise it's just like, so mechanics wise it's just fireball. It's not that big crazy of a spell for the level she's playing at, but giving her the ability and like flavoring it as like she like whips her mace around, does the cool like Thor thing where like she chucks it and then it like blows up. Like that's pretty sick. Right? And it makes like Maisie have like this kind of cool finishing move, right? Like this flashy thing that she gets to do.
Yeah, like you did mention like you can give them something out of their level, which I think could be fine. But you can get away with giving them stuff that they wouldn't normally have at their like in their class that is level appropriate.
Yeah.
Again, as long as it's like limited uses of that thing or comes at some sort of cost. I think that's kind of where balance is, what the cost of the action is.
For sure. And like you can give them gear slightly ahead of where they're at too if you want to make them feel powerful, right? I mean, if you like, you don't have like, if they're level 3 and you know they're gonna level up soon, give them level 4 stuff or whatever, right? Like you could pull from that pool too. Like don't worry about it, especially on like a cool moment, and especially if the bad guys are using it on them beforehand. Like that's like, then everything's fair, right? Like you know, so again, like it's cool. Just give your NPCs the cool stuff the players want to play with, and then when they beat them, they get to take it and they feel like even more accomplished. And then it's like, you know, that piece of gear that they get becomes special to them, right? It has like a story to it.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. But I was just gonna say, like, if you do spell stuff, like you can check if it's level appropriate or whatever. But yeah, as long as it like feels special, I think that's the main thing. Just talking about the Cowboy campaign, Tim did something very fun, which is that he let my character sort of dig their own grave because she stumbled across a magical book that shouldn't be in this dimension.
Oh no.
We really need to just go over those sessions that have happened so far because, yeah, no,
I need Tim to give me a list of things you guys found.
But no,
like,
she didn't tell anybody though. Like when we got back, we were just like, no, we couldn't find it. I don't know, man.
That's crazy, dude. She's gonna go straight to jail.
So she's been looking at that. I'm sure, like, he has mentioned that I think it is like a specific item, like a specific book, but I don't want to know what it is. She's read it. She's learned the harm spell from it.
Shit. That's crazy. This is like Texas, like that's like crazy voodoo witch magic stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
They're gonna send you to church, like.
But I mean, like, I also I haven't had to use it too much because I do have Danny. Ramon, you gotta play in this game. I will just quickly explain my character. See if you can catch what references it's making. But my character Trish, she's an inventor, and the type of inventor she is the one that has a construct, and her construct is a robot dog named Danny, who is pretty powerful, probably the strongest member of the team, but also the hardest to heal.
Ah, okay, that makes sense because it's literally like a robot dog.
Yeah. So
I don't know
like,
what you're referencing though. Can't think of it off the top of my head. That's okay.
What's the one thing I reference?
JoJo's, like.
Yeah, remember?
Is that JoJo's
part 1?
Reference?
In part 1, JoJo's dog.
Oh wait. No. I didn't remember the dog. It was so long ago. That happened like at the very beginning of the whole series.
Yeah, man.
I didn't even know it was called Danny. That's so funny.
I had to pick a dog name from JoJo's, and Iggy was too obvious.
Yeah, Iggy would have been way too obvious. I like actually like recently like watched that more than like the first part of JoJo's. Although I really want to watch the second part of JoJo's. Part 2 is probably still my favorite part so far. Although I'm like really bad at watching JoJo's. I'm like so behind of all of the parts. But yeah.
That's fair. Part 2 is really good. Joseph is like, I can see why he's a lot of people's favorite JoJo character.
He's so stupid. Like I love, like he's so, like I don't know. I feel like all of the other, like he's like the template for like Josuke, and like Jotaro is cool, but he's like too cool. But I like a lovable idiot. You know what I mean? Like I like that. Joseph is like is that, and he's as likely to run away as do something cool. Like,
and it still works out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Josuke's like power wasn't one of my favorites, I think my favorite would be Joseph, but Josuke just about just slightly. Yeah, Actually, speaking of anime, because this is a Flim-Flam episode and we're not sticking to any topics, I am rewatching Iron-Blooded Orphans, so I am getting ready for that emotional roller coaster.
Oh my god, man! The worst part about that whole series is that they stopped. and they finish. Like, that's the hard part, because like I can't not watch any more Gundams. Like, actually, I think it ruined it. It ruined all the other Gundams for me. Like, every time I see it, like, it was tough, because I was like, for some reason, the sheer weight of every single Gundam, and when they smash the crap out of each other, I'm like, yes, these are real ass robots. Like, it feels like they're made out of metal more than like any other time in the Gundam series, because even the other Gundams, they always felt like they moved, they felt like they were just people in robot suits instead of machines. And like, I really like the fact that in Iron-Blooded Orphans, Mika and all of the people using I'm not like the direct neural link system. I don't know how to pronounce that one.
The Alea Vinyana system.
Alea Vinyana. Yeah, that stuff. The reason why they're so crazy is because they move like real people, right? And that's the problem. They're like, I love the fact that like they just are superheroes. They're playing super robots, so everyone else is like just trying to like play mech battle, right? And that's their superpower. I love the fact that that's it. And just like, I don't know, it just like the weight of battle in that one feels so real, and the mech designs feel the most real as well. Like, I can totally see the engineering, I guess, and like the idea behind them, and like the parts moving like more than any other Gundam. So like when like Witcher Mercury just feels like Witcher Mercury feels like a super robot show now to me. Like, I see it and I'm like, yeah, this is just magic. I'm pretty sure. Like, they're not.
I can see where you come from with that. Like, I think Double O would have the same effect.
Yeah.
Although
here's the thing. I recently watched G Gundam, and I love G Gundam.
Oh, I would have assumed. I haven't seen it yet, but I would have thought that you would love it.
Yeah, dude, I love G Gundam, and I think they're doing like another not season, but like a successor to G Gundam, like in that universe or something maybe. But also, I think like Gundam Build Fighter is also in that universe, because I think at the end of one of the seasons, it was like, what's his name? His name Domon. Domon was like the main character, right? In I think Gundam Build Fighters Try is a martial artist who's like, I don't understand Gundam. He enters the Gundam Build Fighter stuff. They make Gunpla and they fight each other. And they realize the martial arts, like the master of that martial arts, is like Domon Kashun, who's the fighter in G Gundam. So apparently those series are linked. So I want more. I want more screaming. I want more robots punching with glowing fists. I want more, attack names, like all that kind of stuff. I just want that, but like with like the graphics. And I also want Iron-Blooded Orphans. But for some reason, there's like an uncanny valley where I'm like, I don't want something in between.
If it's in between, yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's the difference between like I don't want laser beams, but I want like the burning finger fists. Like, I want that silliness and kung fu and like the whole like sexy nano suit stuff. But I also just want like raw ass. This is like a metal baseball bat. I'm gonna bash in your cockpit. Like that's what I want.
Yeah, man. Well, because I know you're a big Gurren Lagann guy, so like it's either the way, or it's either all the way one way or all the way the other. But anything in between, it's like not enough of either one to feel like either one.
Yeah, it just brings me out of the sense of like, stuff.
Yeah. No,
also, if there's too many laser beams, I'm not into it. But if there's more punching, I'm into it. Like, it's such a weird thing.
Yeah, no, I get the comparisons you're making. I think for me it helped because I've been bouncing around Gundam, so I saw like the original series after Iron-Blooded Orphans, so there's definitely a tonal shift there that I think sort of helps keep me like into that specific thing. But yeah, no, like especially like comparing it to other ones, I feel like IBO is, I don't know if grounded is the word I'm looking for, but it feels more physical. Like, they don't have as many, like, of the laser beam weapons. Like, those are, like, a very specific thing.
Any laser beam weapons at all. The only one that had it was the mobile armor.
Yeah.
And that was wild when, like, it was crazy to even see it happen. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
like, it felt like it was, like, the super weapon versus just, like, the standard issue rifle that every jabron has, like...
Yeah, I think IBL has great designs. It's just, part of me wants to do like a whole review on it because I want to talk about like, I don't know. I feel like if it ended with the first season, it would be bittersweet, but it'd still be good. It's a hard show for me to recommend because I know so much stuff happens. Like without getting into specifics, so much stuff happens that makes me very sad. But also, it like, obviously the show was doing something right if I cared enough about the characters to care when certain things happened.
I know, and like they're not. It's like a tragedy, like a real hardcore tragedy, because it's like they like the Tekkadan doesn't even understand what they're doing wrong, right? Because they're actually just kids that grew up in like such a shitty system, and like they don't get the wider politics and stuff that's happening as a whole, right? So even if they're like, and like their ideas of longevity and like safety and like what it means to even just like be the ones in charge, right? Like that stuff, like there's a very clear like thing where it's like they just didn't get it, and it's because like they're actually still just kids.
Yeah,
and that's like the tragic thing, right? And it's like, oh, they were so close, but they made a crucial mistake, and then fucking stupid English class Shakespearean tragedy. Now I know, and I realize why I have the sad feels. Like,
yeah, yeah. There is so much of that show that was like, oh, they were so close, and then, oops, here comes the tragedy machine.
Oops, yeah, oops. Here comes all the sadness.
Yeah, like it's I don't know. It's like that again. That's why it's hard for me to recommend. Like it's good, but also prepare for. Don't binge it all at once like I did before. That was rough.
Yeah, oh man, it was I don't know, I feel like it's heartbreaking to watch it week to week too, man. Like it was like a crazy experience.
Yeah, but like that's a normal amount.
Fair enough.
Don't exhaust yourself by the last episode.
But anyway, the robots are cool, and like kind of tying it back to what we talked about, Lancer, about stealing equipments, like even like the upgrades through like all of the upgrades to all of the Tekkadan like robots, and even just like even them having some robots, like they steal everything. Everything is like it's like ripped off. Anything they can salvage is like equipped. Like half of the Gundam's stuff is pulled from the foes they defeated. Like everything is just recycled, and like that's kind of like the Lupus Rex's tail is actually the tail from the mobile armor. I think they got some like cannons from something else. Like there's just so much, and even like the arms from the Gruzin was like ripped off from another one, so that's why it has 4 arms. And like I think its big ass shield was actually like the back plating, but the shield also has like boosters on it. Like it's just like so good. It's such a like the mechs there are just really really freaking cool. Or even just like the generic like Zaku mechs, like I don't know, I spent a bunch of time on the wiki like looking at them. And like even like the Zaku mechs, they're like they have like this like the weird beak thing where like it opens up and has a spherical sensor because like they have to keep it protected. So like it's just all these like little parts that like make the mechs feel like machines more than anything. And that's also why it makes Mika feel so crazy whenever he does anything, because everyone realistically looks like they're moving in slow motion in comparison to him, because he has the cool magic capabilities of wires going into his brain, right? Like
yeah. And it's actually like, because that's such a theme in all the Gundam stuff, is that, I mean, obviously all the Gundam stuff is like this very young pilot who has to do this incredible mech piloting, but they all have something that's like, there's also this class of like super people that exist.
The new types.
Yeah, you have your new types, your coordinators, your I'm obviously going to blank on all of them now, your witches, your whatever. But in IBO, it feels like such a more brutal thing, because it's not just something that a person is like born with. It's a surgery that they have to get, and it's not like, it's incredibly likely that they won't survive it as well, which again just ties into the whole overall themes of the show itself of being a more brutal Gundam.
Yeah, and they're like it's illegal, and they're still forced onto them. But there's no rules at Mars, and that's why there's child soldiers at Mars, because like Gallahorn and his stupid Mars economic blog or whatever is like, they're like, screw you, and Earth has this crazy control, so Mars has to like fight for their rights. So it's like there's like all this crazy political stuff going on, and then these kids are just like, I don't know, I've only just known to kill people for the last like 10 years. Like, I don't know how to run a business or like be in politics. We should do an episode of IBO, I think. I'm pretty sure. Maybe instead of doing it with the Win With Dice podcast, we should do it because it's all about tabletop RPGs from the intro. We should just like make a special bonus podcast where we just talk about
that. Would be Gundam. Pretty sweet, actually, because I'm fresh off of Gundam Wing as well, and I have some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that might be fun to put together. I don't know, folks listening, let us know if you want us to talk about stuff. I'll probably put like Barbados as like the thumbnail, so everyone knows it's about we talked mostly about mech stuff.
Actually, because then I could have a chance to talk about Dougram, Fang of the Sun. Dougram. This it's another mech anime from the 80s. And it's not very well known, but I really liked it because the goons in that show, like, they all look cool. Like, sometimes mech goons are pretty, like, yeah, sometimes mech goons are pretty forgettable. But I found they were all really cool in Dougram, and yeah, I just really liked the series. And I thought the main mech was pretty cool too. I don't know. It would be fun to talk about it.
That's so funny, dude. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Armor Hunter's bottom. That would be pretty fun too. Because it's just like a dude with a big ass gun fighting robots. like he's on a quest for revenge. He has this like pile bunker gun that he just like, because they're just like basically cars with guns and treads and stuff like that. So like it just like, you know, gets close and pow. Like this giant fucking gun, and it's pretty sick. And I feel like that should just be an NPC class, like the fucking like mech hunter. That would be so sick. Where it's just like you gotta fight this one dude who's really good at taking down mechs.
Yeah, we should build that encounter. That would be a fun Lancer episode.
Yeah. I mean, we could give him like a power suit, so give him like a half-size mech, and maybe like kind of base it off of like the Atlas or something like that. Give it some kind of connection. But yeah, we should do an episode of that. Tons. I guess this is a really good Flim-Flam episode. We have lots more ideas for other Flim-Flam episodes.
I don't remember what we were talking about before we got onto this subject.
That's a good question. I don't know. It's probably good to just call it here.
I think we flim-flam too close to the sun. I mean, the main thing, of course, this week was to get Silrona's input on whether or not we can keep the banjo. Yes,
you guys can keep the banjo.
Okay, perfect.
as long as you promise to give it back and don't lose it, Tim, make them lose it, and then Silrona will be mad.
Oh no. I don't know what would be like if we have to deal with an angry Silrona. I don't know what direction that's gonna go in.
Daddy's home, like.
Okay, well, Tim, now you know that. Now you know what Silrona's reaction is, so we'll have to see what'll happen. And for people who don't know, Tim is a GM that we've talked about a bunch on here. He's also been on the podcast a few times. He's one of my favorite GMs, so I'm looking forward to whatever he does with this information. I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to cover right now. We talked about the Cowboys. We talked about the game announcement. We talked about loot. We rambled about Lancer and Gundam. I think this is an episode.
All right, sounds good, folks. Let's go. Let's head to the outro.
All right. Well, thanks a ton, everybody out there, for just listening and hanging out and being with us on this countdown to 200. Speaking of, I did make a post on YouTube just looking for Q&A topics for our 200th episode, as well as whatever people want to hear us talk about. We have other like games and stuff that are on our list of things to talk about, so you know, just let us know what you want us to get into. As far as channel stuff goes, well, first off, I want to give a shout out to all the people who are linked below in the description on the YouTube video If you're into the Lancer RPG, you should have been checking out this awesome work anyway from all these third-party writers and creators. Also want to shout out the Untold Stories project. They're going to be starting a new 6-episode series soon using the Cthulhu Awakens system, featuring 6 students at the Armitage Preparatory Academy. You know, all these high schoolers at a new school who also now have to deal with weird mystical nonsense sort of knocking at the doors of reality. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun, as well as their upcoming one-shots. And as far as channel stuff goes, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with Armored Core. I'm going to see if I can like roll it back and not have to use the patch. But if I can't do that, then like I can't viably stream Armored Core, which sucks because I got to a really critical part of the story. But otherwise, there is Baldur's Gate 3 going on, there's the Baldur's Gate 3 co-op games going on, and there's the new game, The Evil Within, as well, on Sundays. So yeah, we'll see how things go on that front. Ramon, anything else before we head off?
I think we're good. Thanks for listening, folks. I mean, it's been a fun episode just flim-flamming. So, I don't know. If you guys wanted to hear more of that stuff, let us know, and we'll just, shoot the shit more often.
Yeah, Ramon, I don't know what you're going to put in the thumbnail for this one.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll make some stuff up. Don't worry.
All right. Okay, folks. For all of our iron-blooded GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.